Hi guys, welcome to Eden's birth story. I wanted to make this so that way you guys could hear it and also so that way you guys knew a little bit more of the truth about labor and a little bit of postpartum. With Eden, I had a pretty normal pregnancy. I slept a ton. It was awesome most of the time till right up to the very end when it started getting a little bit more painful and uncomfortable. I did everything right when I was pregnant. I took my prenatals, I ate healthy, I worked out 3 times a week. I worked at my job until my due date. I even worked out until the day before I gave birth to her. And overall, I did everything that I was supposed to. I meditated, I read all of the books, and so it went pretty well. By the time that I was a week and a half overdue, because she wanted to hang out in there a little bit longer, I was in a lot of pain and I was uncomfortable. And so we were going to induce Monday, over the weekend of when it was about to be 2 weeks over. And I remember crying to Jake and being like, we've tried everything. We tried castor oil. I tried walking. I tried eating everything. I drank my red raspberry leaf tea. I ate my dates. They were all supposed to help, get this ball rolling. I tried having sex with Jake, my husband, and nothing worked. And so I remember crying to him Monday morning at like 3 a.m. and I was like, I wanted to give birth to her naturally. I wanted to do this myself. And I was pretty upset. And he was like, it'll be okay, Cassidy. It's all right. And then 2 hours later, I go into real labor. For the weekend, I was in prolonged labor, so I had contractions the entire weekend, so I didn't get any sleep the 3 days before she was born. I would take like maybe 20-minute naps, maybe, if I got that much. And so then when she finally decided that it was time, I was pumped. I was so excited, and I was like, yay! I prayed for this. I'm so excited. It was a little painful. I remember waking Jake up and being like, I need help now. And so he woke up. He cleaned the house extremely fast. And I was like, whoa, okay, yes. So he cleaned the house. We got in the car. And at this point, I had been contracting for about 4 to 5 minutes apart for at least an hour. And so that's when they say to go to the hospital. So I was like, okay, let's go do it. And he stops at Quick Trip to get drinks. And on the way there, he's like, I'm gonna need them. And I thought that I was gonna kill him, but it's fine. In the grand scheme of things, I didn't have her until much later. Oh, nice burp. So then we got to the hospital. I actually had to wait in the waiting room because everyone else schedules to have their babies and I didn't. I just went in on my own. So I had to wait until they got a room ready. So I went to the triage room and it was great. Comfortable bed, great shower, awesome nurse. I think her name was Alyssa. She was awesome and just so peppy. And she checked me and I was only at like a 2 or 3 or something like that. And so I stayed in the shower for what felt probably like 10 hours. I was just like hanging out in that hot shower and it felt great. She told me to eat some waffles and I did. And so I hung out in the shower for so long that I dilated enough for her to be like, all right, let's send you to the labor and delivery room. And I was like, yay. I'm like still so happy at this point. I'm like, yay, I'm having my baby today. I can't wait. So we go up there and my contractions start getting longer. My sisters come up there. They are great help. I would highly recommend having help. At first I was like, I just want my husband there. But it's especially for your first baby, it's a long process. So I would definitely recommend, except I would recommend them coming in shifts instead of all at once, but do it a little bit different next time. But they came, my sister brought a rice bag. They were there helping massage and talk to me and keep me, uplifted and all of that. I had tried my music and meditations, and honestly, my contractions were so bad at some point that I didn't even hear it anymore, so I didn't really care. The problem with my labor and delivery room was that I had a shower that didn't really work. It just trickled instead of actually gave me any relief, so it was pretty upsetting. I definitely wanted that fixed, especially if you're having a labor without medication, anything like that, because I wanted to do everything natural. I had a plan. I had my birth plan, And so that put a little bit of kink in things because it was a lot more painful without a really nice shower. But I was doing great. Jake was awesome. We were walking, and I didn't get very far for a while because I wasn't as relaxed. So after a while, Jake was like, let's break your water to get this ball rolling. And I was like, okay, cool, let's do it. And so the doctor comes in, and I had been laboring for quite a while at this point. So the doctor comes in and gets his little crochet hook, breaks my water. The only bad part about it, I didn't feel him actually break my water at all. It was laying down during contractions. That's what's the most painful part. But so he broke my water. She freaked out and started like pushing against my belly. My sister said it was the craziest looking thing. And so he said, I think he was a resident or something like that. He said, oh, you're dilated at a 9. You're going to meet your baby soon. And I'm like, yes, this has been so hard. I'm so excited, because I was extremely exhausted at this point. And then they call my doctor in, and I'm like, yay. And so my doctor checks me, and he's like, Cassidy, you're only at a 6, not a 9. And I was like, what? I was like, are you being serious? And so then I'm devastated. And so like I mentally take a step back, because I mean, it's hard. I was laboring for hours and hours and hours. I mean, I had been there all day. It's like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night, almost 1, I think, something like that. And so I had a really hard time with that because I thought that I was so close. And so Jake told me that he was like, let's add some Pitocin to get your contractions and you're dilated a little bit more and everything. And I was pretty upset because when you add Pitocin or something like that, you can't get up. So I couldn't even utilize my crappy shower at all or walk around or anything like that. But at this point, I needed help because I was passing out in the shower and I was passing out on the ball, like my bouncy ball and everything. So I kind of knew that I needed something else. And so we add the Pitocin, and that makes it a lot harder because they're more frequent and harder contractions. So they were probably like 30 seconds to a minute apart each time. And I was like, this is a nightmare. I felt like I couldn't get a break in between them. And so I contracted for a while. My nurse, Tori, she was being awesome. She was making me change positions. I felt so bad because I was peeing all over the room. Once they broke my water and they were pumping me with fluids, I peed everywhere. I peed all over the bed, all over the floor. I felt so bad, and I just kept apologizing. Luckily, I pooped earlier that day, so I wasn't really worried about it. But honestly, you're not really thinking about that much stuff when you're there. So when this was the hardest part. It was like really early Tuesday morning, and I was struggling. Jake was doing great counting through my contractions. What he would do is he would start counting right when I said I could feel a contraction going on, and I knew at a certain point that the contraction would almost be over, and I was like, yes. So that was something that I found extremely helpful. And Tori was making me move positions, and that was great. And at one point I remember saying, this can't be real. Like, this can't be what labor's really like. It can't be this bad. And I remember looking up being like, what is happening? Because I mean, these were coming so strong and it was so painful. And but there's nothing you can do about it. You can't stop labor. And so they were doing a great job. And at this point, Jake was starting to get really, really worried. And so he brought up getting an epidural, and I was like, I don't want an epidural. I've been working this hard. I don't want to get an epidural. I was like, that is me giving up after hours and hours and hours of labor. But they started to get really worried. My doctor started to get really worried. You know, they were like bringing up like, do you want a C-section? And I was like, no, I don't want a C-section. And so I was like, let me try for a few more hours. And I tried for a few more hours, and I got stuck at an 8.5. And I remember she was like, let's try pushing, Cassidy. And it just felt like I was pushing my insides out. And I mean, contractions are this crazy, like your entire body's tightening. It's a different kind of pain that you really can't experience any other way other than labor. And you can't stop it. You can't take a break. All I wanted to do was take a break to take a nap. And so finally, I had been laboring for over 24 hours at this point, and I was just exhausted. And so they tucked me into the epidural, and I had my hands and knees on him, and I'm like holding him, and he's trying to hold me still while the anesthesiologist is sticking this giant needle in my back. But honestly, you don't even feel it, and you don't even think about it, because the pain that you've been going through this entire time is nothing. I mean, that's nothing compared to what you've been going through. And so, I did that. They gave me that epidural, and I mean, within seconds, I was like, and I laid back on that bed, I felt phenomenal. I took an hour and a half, 2-hour nap or something like that. While I was sleeping, they were putting the peanut ball in between my legs. And I remember waking up to Sherilyn, my nurse that I actually had the day before. I didn't think she thought that I was going to be still there, and I was. And she's like, Cassidy, so good to see you. And at this point, I'm extremely happy, because those drugs are good. They are intense and they work, and I get why people do it, but it does make it a lot easier, like 100% way, way, way easier with drugs. I get why people do it now. But, so at that point, she's like, hey, let's try pushing. And I'm like, okay, great. So I push once, and she's like, okay, Cassidy, stop pushing. And I'm like, okay. She's like, I can see Eden's head. And, so I wait for my doctor to come in. He comes in, and I can see in his glasses my downstairs, and I'm like, whoa, that's crazy. And I tell him that, and he's like, yeah. And I'm like, can I touch her head? And so I touch her head. I'm like smiling. I'm like, this is so cool. And so they tell me to push. I push like 5 times. She's out. I remember Jake putting her on my chest. I just remember her being like slimy and warm, but I was so happy. I mean, it's crazy how you forget so quickly about all the pain that I was just in. They hand her to me, and I'm like, this is magical. And he looks at me, and I'm like, I want so many more babies. Because at some point in the night, he was like, are you sure you just don't want one? I was like, no, I want more than one now. I want 4. And, so he cuts the cord. They take my placenta out. I don't remember a lot of this because those drugs were really good. And so then I get a snuggle with her. He's sewing me up. And I mean, I was just so happy. I got a full hour of my snuggles with her, and Jake got a hold of her for a few minutes before they realized that she had a cloaca. They thought she had something else, but I mean, and she was perfectly fine. They just knew that, and so they needed to go get her checked out, pump her stomach. But I'll make a whole video about that because it's way too much to talk about in this. But she was great. She did great the whole time, and I was so happy that I had such a beautiful baby. And so afterwards, it was pretty rough when the drugs started wearing off, because it feels like you got hit by a truck. I mean, I felt rough. So I think I had it a little bit harder because they took my baby away from me, so I didn't have any of those lovely hormones going to my head. And so I had a hard time. The first poop after felt like glass. I remember crying and holding Jake's leg. I had a 2nd-degree tear, and then I had a hematoma, so I was in a little bit more pain. Ice diapers are amazing. They are amazing. I use the crap out of those. And then just having people come was amazing, and helping and like bringing food and stuff like that. I had a hard time because they told me that if I wanted to start breastfeeding, that I had to start pumping, and no one really explained to me what to do. I was like so out of it at that point. So I had turned on the machine high. I gave myself blisters, and then I had an oversupply. I had extreme engorgement, and then later mastitis. But actually having her feed after when I still had the blisters actually heals your blisters quicker, which is great. And hot compresses are awesome. And I had a lot of problems that a lot of people don't have in labor, delivery, you know, afterwards. Not very many people go through that. So I don't think this is a negative thing. I'm just trying to be honest about it. and I felt pretty rough. You really should take it easy 2 weeks after, like do nothing. Just enjoy your baby, do nothing. I didn't really get that, but it was really hard. But I would not take it back. I mean, I would do it all over again. I would do exactly my pregnancy the same way. Because I got this little bundle of joy, and she's so worth it. Next time I still don't want to do drugs, like use any drugs, because I feel like if I can handle that, I can do it again. I'll be fine. I'll prepare myself better next time and make sure I have a good shower. But other than that, it was great. I think nothing really went how I planned it to. So I think prepare for the worst, but just, just expect that it can happen, but be positive about it, but just know that it can happen. Just plan in case something does happen, not to your plan. Plan for the unexpected. Other than that, afterwards, I think it's really good to have support. One thing that I would recommend is bring snacks like chocolate. I had diapers after, and that was amazing. Adult diapers, I wore those, great. And another thing for postpartum, that they don't talk about a lot is that you can have uncomfortable sex even up to 6 months. And I feel like, because I was like, oh my gosh, something's wrong with me, but it's common. It's not uncommon, let's say that way. Not everyone has these problems that I've had, but it's just something to be aware of and be prepared about, so that way you're not upset or you're not freaking out when these things happen. But I love, even though I hated it at the time, I loved that I got to have my birth with her and have this beautiful little baby, and I would do it all over again for her, and I can't wait to have so many more babies. Say bye, Eden. Thank you for being so good for this video. I appreciate it. I completely forgot to add that she was a 9-pound, 11-ounce baby that was almost 22 inches long. So she was ginormous and came out with a bunch of hair, and he actually helped pull her out by her hair. I can't believe I completely forgot that, because she was a ginormous baby. I mean, humongous. Heavenly Father knew that she needed to stay in there a little bit longer just to get a little bit bigger for everything that was going to happen to her later. And she was actually born on Jake and I's 3-year first date anniversary, which I thought was so cute, and we didn't even notice it until later because we were so caught up in all the craziness that was happening. But thank you guys for watching, and I really hope that you guys ask questions or, just, anything that you want to know, just because I'm not scared to talk about it, and I think that something should be talked about a little bit more. And I think that definitely they should have a little bit more help for postpartum and stuff like that. So ask me questions, anything that you want to know. I will be completely honest about it, but it is a wonderful, wonderful experience, because you get to bring life into the world, and that is the best feeling in the entire world. So thank you guys.